Hey, Janine.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you doing?
Oh, yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
Good. Yeah, I read something recently that said that we're living longer than ever, and it means that people are having like living multiple lives,
Mhm.
like it's in terms of various things like career, family, just identity and all of those things. Do you feel like that resonates with you? Like, do you feel like you've had multiple sort of lives?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I was, a graphic designer working in a corporate office, and then I became like a fashion blogger. And the style that I had working in a, corporate commercial real estate office was a lot different from being like a blog, like a style blogger. And then when I sold the blogs, it was like being a mom and, doing that kind of life. And that was, completely different from dressing as a fashion blogger and then coming back into styling and making content. And I feel like each iteration is completely different from the past. And so and I feel like your life change, like people's life, and this is the same thing with like my clients, their life changes, whether it be from like the pandemic or from like body changes or from career changes or all different kinds of changes, they have like another act in their lives. And so, and I think it would be really curious to hear like when somebody gets into a new career, like how does that affect their style?
Yeah, it's really interesting to think about. Yeah, I happen to know someone who had some really interesting phases,
Oh, yeah.
and they're very different. So she went from record store owner in the 90s, like total punk rock badass, like coolest girl on the block,
Yeah.
and then went into being working for iTunes. Like, so it was like the common thread was music, but she was in a corporate setting.
Hmm.
So totally different. And now she's doing something totally different and artistic. She's an artist.
Oh,
So,
wow.
I would be really curious to hear from her, like how her style has changed over these years.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd like to hear about that because like it's like something that I think a lot of us are dealing with, especially, as times change, like lives change. And so I'd be really curious
Yeah.
to see like how that's impacted her style.
Yeah. And I love like kind of normalizing it because I've gone through several changes as well, but I've always been very resistant to the changes because I'm like, oh, but I thought I was a tech reporter and now I'm a Pilates instructor. So which one am I? And then
Mm-hmm.
like now I'm a mom, and am I only a mom now? Like I always felt resistant to the change because I thought I identified as one thing and now do I have to identify as something totally different? So I think it's really interesting to hear women's stories about how they've navigated these changes, and of course, for our purposes, how it reflects their personal style.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I
So
mean, and maybe it'll help you lean into the changes as well.
yeah, yeah,
The
and just kind
style.
of be okay with them and not think like, oh, there's something wrong that I keep changing my mind about what I want to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So cool. So
Yeah.
let's talk to her.
Yeah, let's do it.
Hi, welcome to the Closet Philosophy Podcast. This is Janine. I'm a personal stylist.
And this is Kristen. I'm a fashion writer, and we're here to uncover the ways that your personal style is so much more than just clothes.
Whether you realize it or not, what you wear touches on science, psychology, culture, politics, and so much more.
Today, we are so excited to speak with Windy Chien, who has made a career out of tying knots. She quit her corporate job more than a decade ago out of a desire to work with her hands and soon fell in love with macrame. Starting with that classic bohemian craft, she developed a contemporary and innovative take on knotting. In 2016, she published the book The Year of Knots, which documented one knot she made every day for a year. This was actually her third act. Before leaving Apple, she owned the legendary Aquarius Records on Valencia Street in San Francisco. Since beginning her Knots journey, Wendy's clients have included the National Geographic Society, the De Young Museum, San Francisco MoMA, Nobu Hotels, Google, the U.S. Department of State, and the Caring Group. Her work has been covered by Wired, the New York Times, and Martha Stewart. Wendy's book about her work was published by Abrams in 2019. Yeah, so we are so thrilled to have you here with us today. Welcome, Wendy.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be with you.
Yay. Oh, so glad you're here. Yeah, so I'm so curious. Like when you left Apple, you tried several artistic endeavors like ceramics, wood carving, stone carving, interior design, but it was macrame that stuck. So can you talk about that aha moment you had and what was it about the knots that made you want to keep doing it?
Oh, sure. I've been fascinated with knots since I was a little kid, and I had all these knotting books that I owned, but had never opened up and learned how to tie any knots. So to me, they're little marvels of human ingenuity of design. Each knot was designed to do one thing and to do it perfectly. So that's why the knots. But the reason I decided to go really deep was because I loved the process of tying them. I love the process of, I started with macrame and made a plant hanger, which is everyone's first macrame project. And the process of doing it, I loved. And, I'm a process-oriented artist. I have to love the process as much as the final result. Like it doesn't work for me if I love the result, but getting there was torture. You know what I mean? I have to love the process of making it because frankly, we spend most of our time in process with something. So process is really important. I value it. I value other craftspeople who also value process. And so that's part of why I chose nodding to go really deep. It just felt right.
Mm. And you have mentioned, I was listening to a couple of your videos, I think
Hmm.
on Instagram, and you said that you're a minimalist with your work. So like
Yeah.
one knot at a time, one color at a time.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious if you approach getting dressed the same way, or is that totally
Yeah.
different?
No, I'm a maximalist with clothing.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. 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 I'm a
Yeah.
maximalist with clothing because, I'm a minimalist with the knots because what I want to highlight is the journey of the line, which is unique in each knot. And I want the viewer to notice that. And an easy way to accomplish that is to get rid of secondary elements such as another color or a
Mm.
third color or a different type of knot. So one knot at a time keeps it really simple and minimal and one color at a time. But that's because my goal is to have viewers enjoy the journey of the line. That's not my goal with dressing. With dressing and clothing, my goal is to epitomize the things that I value and to be, as creative as possible. I just, I want to look good for myself. Like, as I'm sure many women would say, I dress for myself first.
Yeah, and you mentioned that, well, actually that kind of leads us into the next question that you were wearing the outfit that you were wearing in that
Oh, yeah.
press picture for the Ruth Asawa collaboration that you did. That outfit really caught my
You
eye and
liked it?
I loved it. Yeah, I thought it was so
Oh.
cool. And I think you mentioned it was the same designer that you're wearing right now, the top, maybe?
Yes. So I was
Yeah.
wearing a pleated Julia Hoyer top in that photo. And Julia Hoyer is kind of like the new Issey Miyake as far as pleats. Like she's
Mm,
doing really high-end, beautiful pleats. And what makes her work different from Issey is that she's designing all of the patterns herself. She's German, and I think her atelier is in Paris. And so
Mhm.
she's doing all of the patterns and prints herself. And she's clearly much younger than Issei, who has passed already is. And so they have an utterly contemporary, modern kind of feel to them. And so I wear her more than anyone else, I think. And then in that outfit, I was also wearing vintage Escada pleated trousers. I'm obsessed with vintage Escada trousers right now, and you can buy them all vintage, which is so great. And then I was wearing like a little cotton scarf that I picked up in Italy on one of my sailing workshops.
Wow.
Oh, cool. Yeah, it was an interesting, it seemed like a mix of masculine and feminine. Is that like a
Mm.
theme that you return to a lot when you get dressed?
Oh, I don't really think of it that way, but you're right. Maybe intuitively, I'm trying to balance. I'm trying to express balance. And so the top was floral and the pants were, trousers, but they were in the same color family. So they balanced
Yeah.
each other out. Yeah.
Mhm.
What a great observation. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. And like it seems like you also have like a very like kind of you when you're getting dressed, it's not just like, oh, I'm just wearing like utilitarian clothes. It sounds like you're also looking for that bit of expression in your clothes as well.
Totally. So I don't need to wear like my big bud press jumpsuit every day to work, or clothing that can get dirty, because again, I've designed every part of my process really intentionally, and none of my work gets me dirty. Like, I'm not a ceramist. I'm
Hmm.
not a painter. There's no fucking liquids in my studio. So
Hmm.
everything is like the white carpet is intentional. We sit on the floor a lot to make the work, and the white carpet ensures that if my materials touch the floor, they stay clean.
Hmm.
And so, because there's nothing like that's going to stain my clothing, I can wear whatever I want to work. Obviously, I dressed up a little nicer for you guys today, but typically, yeah, my goal every day with dressing is just to please myself. And that doesn't, it doesn't have to be casual or workwear.
I love that. I love that. I also, just to like kind of talk about your history, like I love what you say about in your bio on your website that as a Chinese American army brat, you've often felt like an outsider. And that's interesting because like my father was in the Navy. My father and my stepfather, I don't know what it was with my mom and like sailors, but like they were both in the Navy. So I was a Navy brat.
Yeah.
And so yeah, and I think that's really interesting that experience of moving around a lot. But for you, like you've said that you've used that as a way to define your own identity rather than let others tell you who to be. And did this inform your style actually, like when you were growing up and like now even?
Um, yeah, when you're an outsider, no one ever chooses to be an outsider on purpose. So when you're an outsider, it's by circumstance, and then you have to decide what you're going to do with it, right? And so for me, that meant I got to invent my own system of values, or my own system of what I think is creative or what I find beautiful, or and all of those things. So, that has informed my career choices. When once you become comfortable with making your own rules, then you start to see the joy in making your own rules. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, with clothing, it's never about what's trendy. It may have been when I was younger, when we're all younger. I believe it's our job when we're younger to try on all the styles and to do all the things as you're learning what your body loves, what
Mhm.
feels good and what looks good on you, kind of thing. You have to do that. But when you get older, like, one of the best things about getting older, I think, is that you just know what looks good and what doesn't. We're so much wiser, and we
Mhm.
have more confidence. So we don't care if we're dressing on trend. We're so confident that we just please ourselves, and that's I mean, that's the goal. That's the prize. That's one of
Yeah.
the prizes of getting older, I think. I love getting older. I can't
Yeah,
believe there's so many things that they don't tell you about how wonderful getting older is.
it's true. It's true.
Oh my God, I
Well,
love to hear that.
I mean, I think yeah, I know. I love to hear that too. But as you're talking, like this idea, and I don't know why it never occurred to me, but like in terms of like being an outsider and authenticity. So like
Mm.
when you're forced to be on the outside, it's like you learn what happens when people like aren't there for you, right? They're not there for you. And so like you kind of have to be there for yourself. And it's like this because
Mm.
like a lot of times people think, oh, like I can't stand out because what will people think of me? Like I won't fit in, and da 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 da. And once you realize like what happens when you stand on your own, like you know that you have to be there for yourself. You can't abandon yourself. And so for me, like for example, like I dress the way that I dress because blending in is not worth it to me. Being like authentic and being in my own place and, wearing that red top with the orange skirt down the street where nobody's wearing color, that is like, the way that I show up for myself. And it sounds kind of like something kind of similar is happening with you as well.
Yeah. I mean, when you define what your own values are, then you get to start expressing them. So, like, for example, a lot of the clothing that I wear is made by women, oftentimes women that I know or women that I respect. And
Mhm.
so when I'm wearing, not only is the piece of clothing like amazing, but there's also these extra levels of meaning to me, right?
Mhm.
And that makes the garment more worthy of spending more money on it, because all of the meaning that the garment is imbued with makes it more valuable to me. Or maybe it's conceptually interesting too, like, I will spend money if it's conceptually more interesting to me. Like my bag, can I show you my bag that I'm wearing
Yeah.
Please.
today?
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys are into it, but there's the Comme des Garçons paper bag, And it's this like iconic tote bag that's basically made out of paper and then they cover it in plastic. So that's kind of awesome in the first place. And that's a com bag. And then they did a collaboration with Gucci. So they did a Gucci com paper bag, tote bag. And I just love that. So conceptually it's just like it's fascinating. The paper, you know, the whole thing. And then two brands that you don't think have anything in common with each other. Gucci doesn't do anything conceptual. But in this case, they partnered with a brand that does. And then I put a cute, I made a knot on it and put the Gucci stripes, which is also.
Oh my God.
Wow, that's so cute.
So,
Maybe you
yeah.
could do a collaboration with Gucci.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that'll happen eventually. I mean, I'm holding out for the high-end brands that I want to collaborate with. And so it probably wouldn't be Gucci, but yeah, definitely high-end. That'll happen eventually, I think.
So that's on your mind, collaborations with some fashion brands.
Maybe if it makes sense to, you know, if it means that the work has the integrity that it needs to have in order for it to qualify as an artwork. But yeah, collaboration is wonderful. I've had a few key experiences in the past few years where I learned how to collaborate and I didn't know how to do it before. Like, you know, as a record store owner, I was like steeped in punk rock culture, and part of punk rock is like do it yourself kind of thing. And so I always felt like I had to do everything myself, and then came to realize like I don't have to do everything myself, and collaborations can be incredibly fruitful partnerships between craftspeople with expertise in different mediums. So, for example, the jewelry line that I did a few years ago, this is a piece from it, was I don't know how to make jewelry. I don't know how to work at this tiny scale either. But I had made this necklace out of rope scraps for years, much larger. And so when they asked me to collaborate, it was a collaboration between jewelry artisans, goldsmiths, you know, stone cutters, that kind of stuff. Yeah. So it was such a successful collaboration, and it taught me how to collaborate. So yeah, I'm interested if it has integrity.
Yeah. Can't wait to see what evolves.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so as you've gotten older, you talked about how much you enjoy getting older. Has your personal style changed? Has it
Oh
evolved
yeah.
over time? And could you talk a little bit about like the phases that you've
Oh yeah.
gone?
So I went silver. So I spent the last like I want to say 24 months going silver, and I'm so
Oh,
glad I went silver. I cannot believe I dyed my hair for as long as I did. And now when I look at photos of my dyed hair, it looks completely fake. Like it looks like I'm wearing a wig. It's ridiculous to me that I did it for so long, because no one tells you that going silver is can be totally beautiful.
it looks it really looks beautiful.
Thank
Yeah.
you. I'm so happy with it. And, you know, there was like an 18-month period in there where it was really awkward looking because it was like the white roots were halfway and then the rest of it was black. And so I just like went on TikTok and found like a super cute, like bubble braid hairdo to wear while it was in the weird, awkward growing out phase. So that was my hairdo for like a year and a half. And now I can just wear it out. And it's just, I love silver. And it's gotten to the point now where like if I'm reading a newspaper, you know, profile of Helen Mirren or something, or I see a photo of like a really successful older woman, I immediately like not on purpose, but I'll immediately notice if she's still dyeing her hair or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about with your clothing? Has what you wear, has that evolved?
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Oh my God. Yes. So when I had the record store in the 90s and I was in my 20s and 30s, I was total like thrift store girl, and not high-end thrift. It was Salvation Army, like thrift
Uh-huh.
kind of stuff. And then I had a corporate job for like a decade, and I really played with like there's got to be a better phrase for this, but like the sexy secretary look, you know what I mean? That
Office
like pussy
siren.
bow blouses, office siren, thank you. Like pencil skirts. I had like a beautiful collection of Margiela heels and the whole thing. So I did that when I had a corporate job because it really felt like I was in costume every day with my corporate job.
That's interesting.
And then when I became an artist, I totally went through like an art teacher caftan phase, you know, and was really into like organic textiles, and I wore a lot of Black Crane, that brand that works a lot with linen. And I still do that a lot. But as I've gotten older, I'm so I've always been that woman. I always say that like if I could be anyone in a next life, I would be a male Japanese fashion editor, because I love all of the Japanese designers, the conceptual stuff, like that take on classic American,
Mhm.
but with a twist kind of thing. And so I've always like wanted a bespoke suit made for me, for example, and that's why
Mhm.
I'm so into the Escada trousers now. I know my size in Escada, so I can totally order them on Poshmark and they just fit. So the older I get, the more parts of my wardrobe are devoted to tailored pieces. I love an Armani blazer with the really prominent shoulders kind of thing,
Mhm.
vintage.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, so going a little more tailored as I get older, and I feel like I can inhabit it now. Like I could wear a suit that I've cobbled together from various vintage sites, and it doesn't look like a costume on me.
Mhm. Yeah, so you're like taking a lot more risks in a sense, and being more expressive.
I don't know if I'm taking risks. It doesn't feel risky to me. It feels like
Mhm.
exactly what I should be doing right now. Yeah, it doesn't
Mhm.
feel risky.
Ah, cool. I love that.
I love that too. Yeah.
Yeah. You've said that when you turn towards creativity, you turn towards yourself. Can you talk a bit about what that means to you?
Yeah. So my first two careers, in a nutshell, were about supporting other people's creativity. At the record store, I was selling all the records that my friends in bands were making, and at Apple, I was an editor at the App Store and at iTunes. So I was supporting, the podcasts and albums and movies and TV and games that creative people in the world had designed. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like I'm a natural editor and I love evangelizing the things that I love. So, but when I started making art, I really had to think about it because for a minute, it felt like navel gazing. And I was like, am I allowed to navel gaze? Am I allowed to say that my creativity is now the most important thing to me? Because I'd never allowed myself to say that before. So that's what I mean by turning towards myself. You
Mm.
know, I allowed myself to prioritize my own creativity above anything else. And I
Mm.
and decided that I wanted it to be how I made a living as well, which is like a decision, right? You have to decide what you're going to do with your life and how to
Yeah.
make money. So yeah, I decided all of those things. So it was intentional.
Oh, that's so cool. And I love that. And I also was like really curious as to like, do you have you noticed like through the iterations of your different styles and like as you turn more towards yourself, do you notice any like difference in the world, the way the world engages with you in return to like how you dress?
What a great question. I always say that, like, if I get a compliment from the TSA agent, then I'm doing something right. And I get a lot of them,
Oh, that's
especially,
so good.
which is like kind of funny. But yeah, people like I was at Starbucks this morning and this woman was like, I love your outfit. And I was like, well, I dressed up a little because I'm doing this podcast later, so she's gonna watch it. But it's really nice to get those compliments. And I make sure to give them out too, right? When a girl is cute, you want to let her know that.
Mhm.
If I'm dressing for myself first, I'm dressing for other women second, and for men, like never.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
Yeah, we've talked about that a lot on this show
Yeah.
about how it's like getting dressed is a form of communication. Your
Yes,
personal style is a form of communication, and
absolutely.
like
Mhm.
you can have in mind like you're dressing for yourself, like to make yourself happy, but then like you said, that secondary bit of communication is like sort of a emission out to other women who you might have something in common with, and it's a way to make a connection.
It
Mhm.
absolutely is. And it's connections of all types, right? Like if another woman with silver hair like winks at me or, I get a smile, then that's what we're communicating about. Or if it's someone who understands the significance of the Comme des Garçons paper bag, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Then I've like met another worshiper of that brand kind of thing. So there's
Mhm.
so many levels that you can connect on. And yeah, isn't connection wonderful? It's like one of the things that we need as humans in order to thrive. So whether it's an if you know moment or it's a different type of moment, it's connection.
Yeah. Love
Yeah,
that.
yeah, and I found that it can be both of those things. It can be like if you know, you know, but they can also be like someone who might be a little bit more timid about their style, like sees you out in the wild and they're like, "Oh my God, like I love your outfit." Like, I had that happen to me at my kid's school where the school counselor was like, I know this isn't about school, but where do you shop? You look so great. You always look so cool, And I was like, I was really excited to make that connection because, it's someone who's maybe not super into fashion on a daily basis, but like it was a way for us to make a connection and, maybe she found a way to embrace her personal style a little bit more.
Yeah.
Well, and what I'm hearing you say is that you inspired her, which is great. And it's not egotistical to, to own that.
Yeah.
It can just be like, this is one of the things I get to offer to the world, you
Mhm.
know?
Yeah,
What's
I
that
love that.
What's that quote about how you're not doing the world a favor by dampening your shine, right? The
Yeah.
Mhm.
brighter that you shine in the world, that's a good thing. You never know the good that your shining may do in the world, but it's
Yeah.
doing something good. I'm totally butchering that
No, I
paraphrase.
think
Yeah.
that that quote is like it's sometimes attributed to like the Dalai Lama, but I don't think he actually said it or it's like
Yeah.
a there's a the provenance of that quote is a little bit murky. But I know
Yeah.
what you're saying. It's like who are you to not offer everything you have to the world?
If it
Like
is
Mhm.
something that is right there and it's meaningful to you, absolutely, like wear it on your sleeve and put it out there into the world and inspire. That's a good thing.
yeah.
That's beneficial to the rest of the
Yeah.
world.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you're in your authenticity, you give the people around you permission to be also in their authenticity. So it's kind of like a ripple. It like your
Permission.
authenticity ripples out into the world. So it has a compounding effect. So
I love
yeah.
that. And I looked at one of your earlier podcast episodes where you had like a Venn diagram chart, I think. Janine,
Oh
you had
yeah.
presented that and I loved
Yeah.
that. And I remember authenticity was one of them. It's part of it's a must have.
It's like the part of dressing for power. Yeah.
There
Yeah.
you go.
Because it was like authenticity, quality, and memorability. Like when you have those three together, that's powerful. And so, because like if you're not dressing for yourself or to express like what you have to say, then none of it
Means
matters,
anything.
means
Yeah.
anything. Yeah. So, yeah, that's so, thank you. I'm glad that you listened to that one. Yeah. I read somewhere recently that because we're living longer, many of us are having multiple lives in terms of their career, family, and identity. And do you feel like that resonates with you? And do you think if you were to have another act in store, or is it in knots, or is it knots from here on out? Do you think?
So this is my third career, and I don't think about sometimes I do, but I usually don't think about a third one because when you I mean, making art is so much fun. Why would I want to do anything else? Oh my God. And also, when you're an artist, you get really comfortable with defining it however you want to define it. So by no means am I limited to rope or to fiber. I can be making sculpture out of bronze tomorrow and I'm still an artist. So it offers so many possibilities within the umbrella term that it could be all of those things. I have noticed the phenomenon as I've always noted that there's a point in some women's lives where they turn to just being louder and more active in terms of activism or the things that we really morally believe in and putting action behind that. So sometimes I feel that urge as well. And especially now when we live in this like when our country is so messed up. So sometimes
Mhm.
I think about that. Yeah, I don't know. I've also, I'm an omnivore. Like I've always wanted to experience. I never thought I would just have one career. This feels very natural to me to have had three phases and I want to experience all that life has to offer. So I often think about what it would be like to live in another country. So I think about that and that I of course could make art in another country, but it would be a really different life. So
Mm. Yeah, it is a very different. I've lived in like three countries, and so
really, what country?
yeah. I well, United States, but also like the UK and Germany, and so and then also Guam, but I was a kid then, so and that's not really a different country. It's like a territory, but it's also not America.
Different
So
Yeah,
culture.
yeah.
yeah,
Like
but
someplace else where the rhythms of life are different, where like look at
yeah.
the Italian way of living, where you have a 3 hour break in the middle of the day and that's normal and you don't feel guilty about it. Whereas in America, if we take a 3 hour break in the middle of the day, society tells us that we're goofing off and we should
Mhm.
feel bad about it. I
Yeah.
don't love that.
But I mean, it's interesting though, because like in different countries, there's like so many different things that are different that inspire you or have an impact on your creativity. Like, you
Mhm.
know, like the light, like how does the light look,
Mhm.
the architecture, like the
Mhm.
weather, and so and like and people and like their vibe, like and the way that they're dressing. So like all of those things kind of have an impact, and it'd be interesting to see like how that because because your artwork is like is really beautiful, and it also has a very California sensibility. So what would happen if it was someplace else?
Yeah. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Yes.
So I mean, yeah.
What do you mean by the California sensibility? I'm curious.
Well, I mean, well, the medium like macrame is in like, and also like the kind of the minimalist, the innovation of using like different materials in like a fine arts way, like having something along like what is more perceived as like crafts in like using it in a more like kind of fine arts like method is
Yeah.
something that is actually I don't want to say unique to California, but it happens in California a lot, right? And so and we have this kind of and there is this kind of spirit of Californian art that is kind of looking at things in a very kind of unique and different way. And I don't know, it's just kind
Yeah,
of
I hear
there's a
you.
vibe to California art.
I got you. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I live in Valley. I live in San Francisco where innovation is prized. It's a
Mhm.
value. Not a lot of people think about this era, but I do. Like, I'm obsessed with kind of the early tech era where it was like the Whole Earth catalog and like all of the tech utopians were the same as the hippies and were the same
Yeah.
as like Steve Jobs was still barefoot at Reed College and he was a fruitarian. Like that whole
Mhm.
era where anything was possible and innovation was prized is where I like to swim too. And quite a couple of my bodies of work are specifically about that era where craft and technology were overlapping and we're working hand in hand to develop the high-tech world that we live in now. And there are a lot of hidden figures type stories of women, indigenous women, without whom, we would not have the circuit boards that we have today, or without whom NASA would not have sent the Apollo missions to the moon. And nobody knows these stories. So I like telling those stories with my work. So anyway, that's a long digression to say that I hear what you're saying about the vibe with California and innovation.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also just the tech connection does make it a bit of a California story as well,
Yeah.
since with the Silicon Valley, and a lot of your for anybody who might not know, a lot of I think well I don't know one of your pieces that you make I'm guessing
Mhm.
repeatedly is like a circuit board looks like a circuit board.
Mhm.
So there's that thread into the tech like the literal tech world.
Yeah, I didn't do it on purpose. With those works, I'm telling the story of the indigenous Navajo weavers that were responsible for assembling circuit boards on a reservation in New Mexico for Fairchild Semiconductor, starting in 1968, right? So I'm kind of telling that
Wow.
story. Women like that are completely forgotten when you talk about the era of early tech. So I'm telling that story. But yeah, I mean, being in the Bay Area, if you call something a circuit board, there are a lot of CEOs that are going to need that piece, to
Yeah.
own it, kind of thing. I mean, they get it. They get it. They want to tell that story too, and it's very of this time and this place. Yeah.
That's interesting though. It sounds like so you said it was not on purpose that you called it a circuit board because you like wanted to sell this piece to tech CEOs or something like that. It was sort of a coincidence or like a happy accident.
Oh yeah, completely. I mean, it was not it yeah, it was. I mean, to me it looked like a circuit board. It also looks like Massimo Vignelli's iconic 1972 New York City subway map, and I grew up outside New
Oh,
York City, so that map is like seared into my brain. So it was
yeah.
that, and as an artist, I was just working intuitively and to develop what I now call the circuit boards body of work, but it wasn't called the circuit boards until I looked at it one day and was like, "Oh my God, it looks like a circuit board." And then the story of the Navajo female weavers and Fairchild Semiconductor didn't come to me till like 2 years later.
Oh, wow.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't ever start with a concept or a story that I want to tell. I usually start with the materials themselves. and what they want to do. And that is the approach of a craftsperson. It's not how designers work. It's not necessarily how artists work, but it's how craftspeople work, is like developing a fluency in the materials first and then seeing where they want to go. And I own that and I'm proud of it. And what you had mentioned earlier, Janine, how, craft is really looked down upon by the fine art world. That's another mountain that I'm trying to move.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I almost want to push back on that like a little bit because I feel because like I went to art school and I know like myself and I know my fellow classmates were like we didn't think of the message first. Like we would just like we would get the brief and like intuitively make the thing.
Great.
And then the story comes around. And I think even David Bowie said something like he does. That's how he
Oh,
works as well. It's like like the artist intuitively works first. And like it may be for you, it's like the materials are maybe talking first, but like it, the message is that the story will unravel or it will become
okay.
apparent like as you create. And so it's like I would say that it is no different from any other type of creativity.
Thank you for that. Good. I'm happy to know it. I think maybe my comment was maybe making this distinction more between art or craft and design, you know,
Mhm.
where it's my understanding that design often begins with a brief, like, here's what we want to accomplish first. Now figure out how to get there, kind of thing.
Mhm.
And that is absolutely the opposite of how artists and craftspeople might work.
Yeah.
Yeah. That made me think of another question that I wasn't planning on asking, but I'm just super curious. So you are obviously very successful. You're supporting yourself as an artist. You're financially successful. You're recognized. When you started out, did you imagine that you would be making your living doing art?
No, absolutely not. W-
Yeah.
Yeah, I had quit my corporate job, and when I did that, I saved and I set aside enough money for like rent and food for a year so that I wouldn't feel pressure to earn money immediately. And I just went on a creative exploration. And in 2016, when I decided that I would take macrame to the next level by learning one new knot every day for a year and posting it on Instagram, it was simply an education. It was an exercise in self-education. I was like, I'm going to learn this new language. I want to develop proficiency and fluency in this. At
Mhm.
no point did I think, like, did I have a plan? Like, how can you plan for that? I'm going to be a successful artist. It just seems like a crazy thing to plan for. It was about halfway through the year, I would nail each knot to my living room wall, and the collection got so big. And I fast forwarded and thought, oh my God, by the end of the year, I'm going to have an installation with 366 knots. And that was the moment when I recognized that that was an artwork, and that was my first artwork.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's really
So I
cool. And
did
is
not
that
plan for it at all.
wow? And is that an installation that you continue to create and people buy from you?
Yeah, the original is on the wall. It's in the background behind this circles piece there.
Oh
And I'll,
yeah,
of course,
yeah.
never sell that because in a way, it's my toolbox. Every single knot there is just waiting for me to come and take it and make it into a whole body of work. But I do make knot collections for collectors often. And with them, I'll always ask the collector, is there a knot from your childhood that, has sentimental value to you, or maybe that your grandpa taught you or you learned in Girl Scouts kind of thing? And I'll always include that knot. My knot collections are the most emotions bringing of all of my bodies of work. I've had older people like tear up looking at them because they
Wow.
recognize some knots that brought forth all of these memories.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Wow,
so they're really resonant in that way, and I love them.
Mhm.
that's really cool.
Yeah.
Well, so that kind of eliminates the second part of that question, which is
Oh,
going to be, do you have any tips for someone who wants to become a successful artist who can pay their rent by by doing
I have all
art?
kinds of tips. I have all kinds of
Oh,
tips.
okay, great.
Yeah, like take yourself seriously for one,
Yeah.
like if like own it. If you want to say that you're an artist, then you are. And then I wouldn't say do all of the things that the fine art world tells you that you have to do, but do some of them. You know what I mean? Like have an artist statement that clearly describes what you do and what it means to you.
Mhm.
Be professional, like take professional photos of your work, because the only way anyone's ever going to commission you for something is if they've seen a photo of work that you have done in the past.
Mhm.
I do commissions that are 100 feet wide, and the only way, a client is going to commission me to do 100 foot, wide piece that's like a $200,000 kind of commission is if they trust you. So you need to be professional and not a total suit, but just enough
Mhm.
to to earn a potential client's trust, that kind of thing, and be like a great person to work with too.
Mhm.
Most of the clients that I get are brought to me by art consultants or interior designers, and so you want to be able to speak the language of art consultants and interior designers, because you share the same goal that they do, which is to make a work that makes the client happy. So that kind of thing. So there's like a million tips as far as like just being a cool person to work with. Stand your ground and make the work with integrity, but also like be pleasant to work with and do a few of the things that
Mhm.
communicate that you're a pro and that you're pleasant to work with.
Yeah. Does your personal style come into play with that at all?
Oh,
Kind of
well, when you're
circling
an
it back.
artist, yeah, no, that's great. When you're an artist, you can wear freaking anything and people will
Right.
be like, "Oh, that's fine." So you can kind of do whatever you want, so there aren't any rules.
But I mean, it's like the thing though, like it's like style is language, just like art, just like any of the arts, like any visual communication, like this is like how style works. It's like it tells a story, and so it makes sense that in a certain profession, people would have like a certain like aesthetic in terms of like how they dress, like and it's the same thing with like fashion designers. Like you see it all the time. If you ever go through, scroll through like Vogue.com or like the Vogue app and you look at the last picture of the designer going out to say thank you, like what are they wearing? Like a black t-shirt and jeans, like
Yeah.
or like even like Michia Prada, like she sometimes will dress in very like unique and out there clothes, but a lot of times like she's dressed in very like simple clothing. And so like it's like really interesting like how like even like as someone who makes like all of these like really intricate like bold pieces, what they actually wear is completely different and is kind of a uniform to like the profession that they have. And so
Yeah, no, I totally hear you. And also where Kristen's question is kind of coming from, right? Because when we think of the designer who has the fashion designer who has a uniform, it's almost as if they're saying like, don't look at me, look for evidence of my creativity in all of these things that I've designed, right? And
Yeah.
so you could see an artist taking that same approach and saying like, look at all of my work and not at me, but I'm not
Yeah.
that person. Like I find expressing myself through what I put on my back every day is what feels natural to me.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
So
really
and it's
cool.
not so much look at me, but it's like again, like I said at the very beginning of our conversation, I just want to please myself.
Yeah.
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 So before we wrap up, can we talk about your other necklace? So we talked
Oh
about the
yeah.
one that you designed, and I'm really curious about is that a Chanel?
Yeah, so this is
Um,
vintage Chanel and Chanel pearls. So like, some of the things that you say when you wear Chanel pearls are like you understand the sort of fashion historical significance of Chanel pearls, which are not that valuable in and of themselves. It's costume jewelry, but it's Chanel, so it's forever kind of thing. So it's kind of saying that a little bit, but more than that, what I'm saying by wearing this necklace is look, it's a knot. It's so
Mhm.
cool.
yes.
That's
Yeah.
why when I saw this on the Real World, I had to have it because it's like a Chanel necklace tied into this crazy knot.
Oh, I love
And
it.
I'm a knot tire, so
Yeah. I
It's
thought you
you.
made it. That's why like when you
yeah,
said like oh I was like, "Oh, did you make that?" Like
yeah, it's
because it
part of
looks
it.
like it's oh, yeah.
Yeah,
So it's really
and it's
pretty.
really long.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
it's really
Love
love
cool, and
it
it.
it really
so much.
it works with the one that you made too. It's like they're very different
Yeah.
styles, but it somehow totally works.
Oh, thank
Because you've got the
you.
C like the C's, and then the one that you designed is almost like an upside down
Oh
C.
my God, Kristen,
Yeah.
God, you're good. God, you're good. I did not even see that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. Love it. Love it. So cool. So before, and this is something that I always like, or we always ask our guests, is like if somebody, was looking to bring more creativity like into their style, into the wardrobe, what advice would you give them?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Good thing. I mean, I, I I can't think of like an overarching piece of advice. I would say like, oh God, the only thing that's coming to mind is like try on pleats please. Try on Issey Miyake pleats please. Because pleats, that brand of pleats please, those things last forever. You can wash them in the washing machine. They pack down to nothing and they fit every body type. So like I'm
Mhm.
wearing pleats please pants now and they're just pleats and they literally can fit any body type. And so and what you're getting when you wear Issei is you're getting something that fits every body type, comes in every color of the rainbow. You can style it how you want. Like you could wear it with a denim shirt or wear it with like Air Jordans kind of thing. You can
Mhm.
style in all those different directions, but you're also getting sort of some of that conceptual Japanese kind of way of looking at the world and way of expression, which I just value so much.
Mhm.
I feel like this is a bad answer.
No,
No,
I love it. I love it.
I
I've had
love it
my
too.
eye on Please Please for a while. I haven't made the jump yet,
I
but
It just
remember you
looks
saying
good on
that, Janine.
everybody. It looks good on there. Nobody looks bad in Please Please, including men. They have they have a men's line too, and they look so good on everybody.
so
I'm
cool.
I'm now like I'm gonna start hunting for them on
You can find it
Poshmark,
on the
etc.
Railroad for nothing, or on Poshmark for nothing, like or
Hmm.
for for less than retail.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, so cool.
Right.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. I'm so glad you're here. And where can people find you?
Oh, Instagram, Windy Chien, that's my name.
Mhm.
Yeah, Instagram is I keep the most active. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's Windy, just for people who might not know, it's WindyChien. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, thank
Awesome. Thank
you.
you so much for taking the time. It's been so fun.
It's so fun. Yeah. Like I said, it's like really nice to meet two other women who think deeply about how, we express ourselves in the world. So, and that you're both here in the Bay. I love it. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.